Welcome to the Oh So Spurs podcast, where we're going to be previewing the North London derby today. There's some interesting stats that have given us a glimmer of hope. And today with me, I've got Jonny over in Dublin. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, Jim. It's good to see you, man. And starting to get seriously nervous, but yeah, it's going to be an exciting weekend. How about you? How are you keeping?
Yeah, likewise. I blank out the North London derby right up until the whistle goes. And obviously we'll be there together in the ground on Sunday. I enjoy the day when I'm there, and I think someone else said this before. I almost can't bear to watch it on TV, the North London derby, but when you've got the atmosphere of the stadium and it's about the day, you can make it a part of a day and get mentally through it a lot more easily. So, but yeah, that's obviously it's a huge game because we are probably the one of the last clubs that can derail Arsenal's hopes of that title. If we lose this, it gives them huge momentum to go on and win the league. If we win this, we set ourselves up really strongly for that top four race at the end of the season, and we derail their title hopes. Like, I wouldn't say derail, would you? I'd say we push maybe one of the wheels off the track rather than flipping the train, as it were. But how do you feel about that? Do you think this is like a must win for us and a must win for Arsenal, or would a point do either side's a favour?
To be honest, I think, I guess most Tottenham fans would probably say they wouldn't be as we wouldn't be so devastated by missing out in top four as they would be by missing out in the title, especially when they were in the race last year and they had such a huge lead and threw it away. So there's more jeopardy for Arsenal. I guess as well, we've got the kind of bonus of, I think if we're going to finish in the top four, we really have to win at the weekend. I think the fact that Villa have got the points on the board does make it difficult. And even last night, I was kind of Man City obviously have the advantage in terms of the game in hand and stuff. But last night, they were sort of 2 games behind. And obviously, very convincing win over Brighton. But people who were writing off Arsenal after the loss to Villa are absolute idiots. And if they do get a win against us, then they've got to be, buzzing for that. I know it's very much still City have the game in hand. They're a point behind with the game in hand, but no, it's huge. It's huge, and it is bigger for them. And I think obviously for us as supporters, even if we got a draw, I think I would, to be honest, I'm not saying I'd take it if you offer it to me, but I'd be pretty tempted because I think if they dropped 2, I think they've got a wheel off already with the Villa. I think if we take anything off them, I think there'll be at least 2 wheels off their wagon. And I think, that would be at least, that would be a nice silver lining to the likelihood that we won't get into the Champions League.
Yeah.
I'm still, because of the travelling that I have to endure to get to games, and I really, really just don't want the Sunday football. That's my kind of biggest issue. I don't really have a big issue with the Europa League as competition at all, but I really don't want the Thursday, Sunday thing is a bit of a killer, but such is life. We'll just see what happens.
It is. But I heard someone make a good point, which is outside of the kind of, this typical narrative of course, top 4 is better than Europa League. It's the Champions League. It's the greatest competition outside of the Premier League. You can argue about which one you prefer, but there's financial benefits to that. Whether you're ready or not, all that debate is aside.
Yeah.
Someone did make a good point on it that we're not a top 4. If you look at the last 5 years, we're not a top 4 club anymore. We've lost that grip. We're finishing top 4 once in 5 years. Now, that to me, that doesn't make you a top 4 regular. That is, we became a top 6 regular, then we became a top 4 regular, and we've slipped back into that top 6 regularity again. So it's not an abject failure to come 5th and get the Europa League, but finish 3 places higher than you did the previous year, playing better football. And as someone said, when your last 3 managers pre-Ange have all played a similar philosophy of football, it's going to take a long time to get that culture out of the club. Not just the players, but even the coaching staff and everything. Everyone's got to change their mentality and shift to something new. And they're all learning and they're all growing. So it's not a disaster for us to finish 5th. I think Arsenal would feel really we've missed out by the skin of our teeth again. Are we actually going to get this opportunity next year? Because they must be reaching that point that any player does. You go, I've gone so close once again. Do I really want to do this again? My stock is high. Maybe I could go elsewhere. I've heard the same team talks. I've heard the same promises. I've heard the same reassurances.
Yeah.
I'm reaching that 6-year cycle with a manager where I'm I think that Arsenal fans know that as well. That this means so much, because if Arteta wins it, everyone's going to look at him in the light of kind of, you are an elite. You are someone I'm going to hang off every word. But if he fails again, they're going to go, are you that guy who can make that last little step for us?
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's bigger for them.
Definitely. I think what you're saying is true. I mean, like, in no shape or form is fifth place anything other, in my opinion, than a success, given like all the conversations we had in the summer before the season started, and you know, all the things we've said before about our circumstances then. In fact, like, as you just said, we're only just starting out, and the Europa League is actually a really good competition. When you also, it's interesting when you're talking about, you know, the Champions League, and are we a Champions League side? And you're right to quote the recent history and stuff. I guess for me, the reservation or the regret I might have is that if we're missing out because Villa are ahead of us rather than, you know, one of the established sides, I think, and fair dues to Villa. Like, I mean, Emery's done a brilliant job there, and you know, if they get it, they deserve it, and I've no begrudging there at all. But I kind of, you know, at no point in the season really have I thought, well, they're a better outfit than we are. But I think lots of things have happened that have kind of just maybe not gone for us, as you know, obviously injuries and things like that, and suspensions. But anyway, like, at the end of the day, Tottenham probably fifth is probably about right if we're being honest. And if we can take something off them and stop them from winning the league, then that's huge for us, because that's kind of been almost more of my preoccupation than anything, which is like, as a human, I'm not proud to admit like how much I care about that, but I really do. And the thought of going into work, like anywhere else, like I might be going into a school in Dublin on Monday morning, but like my everybody in my school knows not to even go. Do not even think about mentioning football if it goes the wrong way for us, because they know I'm not going to be happy, and they know that equally anyone who is a goon is going to have to be hiding, because I will be chasing their ass on Monday morning, and being as immature and, you know, predictably full of joys if we get the 3 points. So I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that this is primary school in South Dublin, and you've got like all the dudes who are like going to work, and the vicinity of North London, you know, that's the stakes are even higher, aren't they? Like the families and all of that kind of. You imagine how much the Everton supporters enjoyed going into work the other day after their derby. So it'd be lovely if we can replicate what Everton did.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we've said this before in the past, right? That despite us in many ways having almost everything we ask for this season. Well, at the end of last season, we said as fans, we want attacking football back. We just want a plan that we're following. We want to get better recruitment. And to at least a high level, we've achieved all three of those things. And yet we still find ourselves dissatisfied. And I know there's an attribute to that, which is to say, yes, but it's because we started the season so strongly, and then all these players came back and we expected to get even stronger and we got weaker. That's one part. But so much of it does come back to our rivalry of Arsenal, and them doing so well will always take, if they're above us, the gloss off whatever we achieve. Now, on the flip side, we had them when they were falling out the top four, finishing eighth, laughing at us for losing a final, for coming second, coming third. And we're saying, are you joking? We're so far ahead of you. How can you laugh at us? But now we're back in that seat of watching. So you do get that level of satisfaction seeing someone fall on the final yard that you despise. And there's that natural, despising of Arsenal that we have in our blood that 99% of Spurs fans will say is as important to them in supporting the club as the season as a whole is those rivalries, is those grudge matches that we have the best grudge matches in the Premier League as well. Like, you look at a Man City, and I don't envy them in some ways, because I was at the pub last night with some friends watching the City Brighton game, and someone was going City, 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 and he was a Southern accent guy, so I made a joking jib like, "Oh, come down from Manchester, have you to?" And he's like, "No, I'm not a City fan. I'm a Chelsea fan. I just don't want Arsenal to win the league. And I'm like, so Chelsea fans want you to win. We want you to win. Like everyone wants you to win, but that's because we have no rivalry with you. No one has that passionate grudge with you.
Yeah.
So you are just the epitome of a soulless football club. You just don't have that. You will never have that as fans. You will never know what it truly, because even Manchester United and them, it's a weird one where Man United fans are going, well, I hate Liverpool even more on average. So I want City to win the league. You're like, this is just bizarre. That you don't have that anyone rooting against you, because you are the one thing that allows every other fan base to go, my rivals won't win it because City will. Thank God. So the only people who are going to despise you are the team that finished second to you.
Yeah, it's kind of a perverse thing about the experience of being a football supporter that's, really really consumed by your fandom, as it were. And I think as I've gotten older, I should be getting more mature and all of that kind of thing. But actually, as I've gotten older, my investment in Spurs, especially as my boys have gotten older and have gone to games, obviously go to pretty much all the games now, and it's like it's more of an obsession than it ever was. And how and correlating with that is your antagonism, or your like your derisory feelings towards other clubs, which is like, in all rationale, it's absolutely ludicrous. But I mean, I can accept that, but it doesn't diminish it. And I think there is something slightly, it's kind of a sadomasochistic thing, isn't it? Like there's the pleasure of your mortal enemies messing up, and then there's like obviously the converse whenever they're doing so well. And like, if we're being honest, like I've kind of tried to, I guess, I don't know, like a preemptive to Sunday, I've kind of been not stirring it too much with the Arsenal supporters that I know, of just like saying, okay, like Arsenal playing really, really well, and because like, let's face it, that's the truth, and but it doesn't, in they're kind of like a little bit kind of wrong footed, because they're used to me being like nothing but like incredibly partisan. But I think the City fans are missing out a bit by that experience, and it is weird. Like, we were having the chat today in the staff room as well about like how West Ham, Chelsea, and Arsenal all hate Tottenham.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like the Arsenal thing makes sense. Maybe the West Ham thing makes sense because there's no one big anywhere near them. Leighton are not going to be their biggest rival. So, but it's funny how the Chelsea and Arsenal really don't have a much of a beef between them, and obviously they all hate Tottenham. So there you go. We're getting it from every angle, aren't we? And it's funny because they keep putting down Spurs, the fan bases of those other clubs, and surely in recent years they've been successful in terms of trophies, and we've not. But like, it seems Tottenham still seem to go under the skin of a lot of rival supporters, which kind of galvanizes us as a group as well, and maybe makes us even more sort of together, and our passion for our club probably even stronger. So I think that the likes of the City fans are missing out on that kind of experience, because nobody else is having those kinds of
you had there's OnlyFans famous girls who attach themselves to football clubs to drive engagement. Obviously, I doubt they even support the clubs they do, but what they do is they know it's if they attach themselves to a football club and say silly things on the internet, they'll go viral amongst a community that match the demographic of people who are going to buy their subscriptions, right? So, but you've got the Arsenal and Chelsea ones where I'm going this, the two most prevalent ones, were there going viral on yesterday, because they're holding hands singing outside the stadium about how much they both hate Tottenham. And that's they come in unison on those moments. I would never go, and like, you'd never see Tottenham fans dancing around with West Ham fans and laughing at Arsenal for losing the league. We're like, no, this is our individual thing. And I do think, though, these rivalries make it so much more challenging for a club like Spurs to go on and win something over the course of a season, because grudge matches, when West Ham, Chelsea and Arsenal just all desperately want to beat you, because for the likes of West Ham, they've got nothing else to play for this year, or Chelsea, but they want to come out of the season saying, I beat Spurs. I at least took something away from them, in the same way we want to take something away from Arsenal this season. So we have to go into 2 or 3 games extra a season where teams are typically going to play a level up as they are against our competitors, as an example. And as an Irishman, I'm sure you've in the rugby, right? There's an example there for me is like supporting England, where Ireland want to beat England over everyone else in the Six Nations, and Scotland want to beat England over everyone else in the Six Nations. So we go into 2 games. It doesn't matter if Ireland are having the worst tournament of their lives, they will turn up in that game. Yeah, and Scotland will turn up in that game. And there's the same kind of complex I have watching Spurs. I'm like,
that's very true.
Can you rolled over for Italy? Can you just roll over for us? And like Spurs, like West Ham, you just got pumped by Arsenal 6-0 and didn't even try. But for us, it's that meme of all the Barcelona prime team rocking up in West Ham shirts, isn't it? It's,
you're right.
But the game itself, Jonny, so we should probably just tuck into that a little bit. I'm going to start with Sai's comments. He couldn't make the pod today, but he wrote in some really, really good points. He'd done a lot of research on how Arsenal play, what we can expect, and how we could potentially get something out of this fixture, right? So he said, in the 24 wins that the Scum have had this season, they have scored first in 23. So in the 23 of their 24 wins this season, they've scored first. They have only won once. They have only won once after conceding first. That was against Man U when they won 4-2, but they equalised to 1-1 a minute after conceding, and it was a draw up until injury time. All other games where they conceded first have been draws or losses. They score loads of goals in the first half hour, but if you contain them, they'll struggle in the latter stages of the game. And on a slightly other note, Udogie being out isn't the disaster it seems. Maybe Davies offers some solid defensive improvements there. But I'm going to break that down to 2 questions. So based on what Sai said there, do you think we're going to come out the blocks and meet fire with fire? Or do you think we're going to say, let's keep it in the game at half-time and then go for them in the second half?
I mean, I guess the way that Ange has played, he's not really done anything particularly different against anybody, has he? Like, I don't see us playing kind of any kind of level of conservative football or caution. I think the point about Davies and Udogie probably in this fixture is a good point. I think that, Udogie's obviously been fantastic. There is a stat out there about Davies never starting in a losing side in the North London derby, which is that's a great stat. And he's obviously played in a lot of them, or I think it's home derbies, but there's been a lot of those as well down the years. So no, I understand the source of the question, given the way that they have been really good at coming out of the blocks. But we're at home at the end of the day, aren't we? I mean, I think just like the way that Ange plays, the crowd are surely going to be baying for it's this huge amount riding on. It's like a couple of years ago when we had the 3-0 win. That was albeit under the lights, but that was a massive win, which got them back. They still had the advantage, but they went up to Newcastle and lost. So when we won 3-0, so like the way that the fans were that night was incredible. Last year's derby was pretty benign in all of the ones I've been to, down the years, because we were playing so badly. I don't think it'll be like that. I think the fans are going to, given all the things we've been talking about already, I think that we're going to be absolutely up for it. I think it'll be very noisy. We want to make it intimidating. We want Arsenal to be feeling the pressure. So you don't want to give them any kind of like foothold. You want to kind of take advantage of that atmosphere, I would say. And the players, as much as Ange is saying things like, well, we want to test ourselves against a stronger opposition, and he understands how the fans feel about this particular game, etc., and the opposition. Like, I understand clearly when it comes to being objective and giving team talks and stuff, you're going to say, well, they've got to be measured and focused and maintain concentration, all that, be professional. But I think it would be very difficult as a footballer to be in that atmosphere, which hopefully will be like a cauldron, and not get like the Romeros of the likes of Romero, and they're going to have fire in their belly surely. So No, I think we'll try and come out blocks as well, and I think it has the potential of being. I mean, it should be really open. Like the way that they play will provide us with opportunities that we don't usually get when we're playing at home, because how many games we're at, the vast majority of them, it's like, you're just trying to, it's almost tiki taka around the box, trying to look for an opening. It's not going to be like that at all. So it's going to be harem scarum, and I don't think Andrew's going to modify his approach at all, to be honest with you.
No, we have to look at the trend this season. The players haven't changed, so it's not going to change much, right? It's like we historically, 90% of the time, we start slow. We either, like, overall in the first half, we typically have a good 5-10 minutes, followed by 30 minutes of abject football where we concede at least one goal. And then a second half, which is typically a resurgence of where was this energy in the first half? So I kind of expect it to be like one of those games. It's one of those things. It's going to be won in the first 15 minutes, because if we do what we did against someone like Newcastle in the past and to concede 2 or 3 goals in 15 minutes, it's over. We're not going to come back and score 3 against them. But if we end the 15 minutes at level, in front, or within a goal of the game, I think actually in those 15 minutes we can't be losing, because the next 30 minutes is going to be a wave of Arsenal attacks. Ideally, you want to be the team that scores first. They'll probably get one back, and you go in half-time 1-1 and go, I believe. And you'll feel that belief in the stadium then, I think, of, we can do this. We love a second half of football this year. I think it's going to be a game of 3/3 rather than 2 halves. And it's going to be really interesting to watch. But look, we're doing a bit of a shorter show today because it's just going to be a preview pod. On Wednesday next week, we're going to have Big John Bassett from the Fighting Cock. So tune in for that, because he's awesome. And if you do listen to that show, he's got very measured takes on Spurs and a really good listen. So we're looking forward to chatting with him. But Johnny, let's finish with some score predictions, though, shall we? What are you kind of thinking for the game?
I think I come back to size. Size comments about the first goal are really interesting. His observations about that stat. So I think that's going to be pretty big. I think if we get the first goal, I don't think we're going to lose. I think we've got a decent chance, but that's where I'm feeling a bit nervous. They've got some players in form. Trossard's obviously scoring for fun at the moment. Odegaard's playing brilliantly. Havertz is scoring a lot. I think that they're going to be buzzing after the Chelsea game, clearly, but Chelsea are absolutely brutal, and they will be until next Thursday when we go there. So I think that I'm gonna for my own mental health, I'm going to predict a draw, because I think that they are very good and they've certainly got the capability of winning. But I reckon that our boys will be up for it. I think the atmosphere is going to be incredible, and I think that the Newcastle game is long ago. I mean, like, it's crazy. It's two weeks since our last game, so I'm gonna go with Spurs being 1 up and maybe 2-1 down, and then coming back and making it 2-2. I think that's kind of what I would go with, and if it ends up like that, I'll be content enough, because we'll have taken that second wheel off their title charge, and that's a pretty significant outcome, which maybe it makes me a petty person, but so be it. That's what I am, How about you, bro? What do you think?
Exactly the same as you. I think we'll go 1 up in the really early, and then they'll hit us back in the 15th minute. Then they'll go ahead before half time, and the second half will be us pushing them for ages, and the ground getting so intense in terms of atmosphere, and our typical attacks just failing and not able to beat the low block, and then someone like Son just having that ability to just do a really neat finish that bails us out and just limp through the lines. And then the last 5 minutes, they're coming swarming back at us. It's just backs against the wall, last-ditch tackles, and there'll be something crazy like them hitting the post in injury time and us being like, oh, we came out of it alive, and it'll feel like a win, even though it's a draw. One of those games. That's my thoughts.
It's funny because when you look at their recent form, you see, like, they've obviously they had a huge win against Chelsea, but they're and they had a good win against Wolves. But before that, they lost obviously at home to Villa, and then they lost to Bayern away, and then they drew with Bayern. So in their last 5 games, they've actually lost twice and drawn once. They've just won their last 2. So maybe that's me clutching at straws, but I do think there's a bit of a frailty. I do think that there's still something. I think they're definitely more robust than last year. Rice has obviously made a huge difference, and there are players on their squad that have really still keeping it going in a way that they didn't last year. But I still think that if you can get them, I think that the likes of Ben White can be rattled. I think that there's certain matchups that are going to be huge. If Saka continues his poor form, I think Davies, I would be fairly happy about him. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the midfield, because we've got a little more doubt there about what our lineup will be. So it'd be very interesting to see what Ange goes with there. Will Basuma start? Will Højbjerg start? Will they both start? And so there's a lot of interesting dimensions to what could happen. But I think that and equally with Richie, will Richie start because he's back too? Because I guess Werner's been pretty weak the last couple of games, and then do we go with Decky? Do we go with Johnson? In terms of, I know we're kind of wrapping, but just interested in your thoughts when it comes to the lineup. What do you think Ange is going to do there? Because there are a few choices he's got to make that are not as obvious maybe as in the previous few games.
Yeah, I've got a feeling Werner's going to drop to the bench.
Yeah,
I'm getting this impression over the last 2 games. Ange tried Werner out as an experiment because he made sense. We needed a player like that, and we couldn't go and buy one in January. So he was, let's see what get. And it was a good start, and he thought maybe he's my guy. And he's realised he's not the guy. He's got a value in the squad. So it's time to think for next season, which is where all his focus is. So Sonny is probably going to be pushed out to the left wing. And if Richarlison's fit enough, he's going to start.
Yeah.
Or if Richarlison's not fully fit, he'll make that change after half time, where that's where we're going. But you never know. Actually,
I said he was training all week, so I think he is. I think he's should be in a position to start.
There's a small chance. Mickey Moore's been training a lot of the first team. A lot of people were saying there's a small chance that he just throw a wild card in there and give a Tottenham Academy player a debut in a derby. Like we've seen it with, we all dream of that Danny Rose on his Premier League debut moment. But Mickey Moore on his Premier League debut volleying in from 30 yards would just be what football's all about. Be the best.
Overs.
But
that's a great name as well, isn't it?
It's a great name, yeah. It's a great name.
Two
I kind of feel you mentioned that. Yeah, 2 Mickeys, that would be class. The 2 Mickeys, yeah.
We put in Stu inside to drop their predictions as well, didn't they? I know Sai was going with 2-2. I think that's 3 of us going with 2-2. And I
3
think
of us with a 2-2.
1-1.
And I don't think we got
Stu said 1-1.
Yeah.
So we haven't had a double header prediction for a while, so hopefully we might get one of them. Roll on Sunday, baby. Looking forward to seeing you, mate. And should be good.
Should be good indeed. All right, see you guys on Wednesday for hopefully a happy podcast celebrating a win with John Bass. Up the Spurs.